Hey everybody, and welcome to Stock Abilities. Today I'm going to be covering the Roku Peacock deal. It's kind of been an ongoing thing, a little bit of a fight with Comcast over the last weeks, months, so on and so forth. But they finally came to like an official deal, and they finally got it on their platform and all ready to go. So all that's kind of sorted out. I'm going to go into details about all of that here, so make sure to watch through the whole video, and make sure to comment below your own input. Like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. But we're going to get right into it. That essentially Needham is bullish on the fact of the increase in ad revenue from Roku and Comcast working together. The firm says, adding that the new inventory in the deal could add up to 5% to 10% to Roku's Peacock ad revenues in 2021 and at 50% to 70% gross margins. Hit a buy rating and a 190 price target on Roku. Unfortunately, when they do upgrades for a stock that's usually pretty bearish, they usually tend to benefit a little bit on the day of for that upgrade, but then they tend to fade as a swing and long into the future. That's just what they do. They upgrade to give you the appearance of bullishness, but then they're usually trimming their positions at that given point when they're doing that. So upgrades generally not very bullish in a swing or long capacity, depending. It kind of depends on the situation as well. Not gonna get too much into that, but if you guys are not very familiar with Peacock, it's free movies, TV shows, and other different content. You can pay for more like a premiere service to get more content. Really up to you. The main thing is that it's basically free programming, shows, movies, originals, and if you want to pay for a subscription, you can get ads removed, things like that. But short answer, free is free. It's nice content, a nice little ad revenue generation. The fact that it's free gives a lot broader of an audience of people to utilize this service without ever having to really pay a single penny. Content on it mixed. Some of it's good, some of it's meh. Really depends on what your personal preferences are in that regard. It's just another streaming platform. I personally don't like the content too much on it. Some people might. That's all. In general, it's a personal preference. Just wanted to cover. Basically, it's just an equivalent of another streaming service. Market share is market share, though. That's why it went up. Went up over 17.67% on Monday, hitting a new 52-week high. Since the 21st of September, it's been fading a little bit. It's down to about the 180s now. Where it might go from now in the future, iffy. It's already trading at a high multiple value, high PE ratio, all these kind of things. It's ultimately it's a streaming box company. There's a lot of partners with it. It gets a lot of ad revenue generation. Where it might go from here, I would feel that we might see maybe a little bit more of a bump up before a complete breakdown, down much lower than where it's trading at currently. Just my input. Feel free to share in the comments below what you feel it might trade at here coming in the weeks, months, and years to come. Uh, Essentially, Comcast and Roku had been in talks for months, fighting, disagreed over control over user data, share of advertising inventory, etc., etc. They finally made a kind of universal agreement deal after they did a little bit of a threat to the NBC's TV Everywhere channels from Roku while negotiations continued, and then ultimately they quickly agreed to a deal right after that happened. So whether that was the trigger for that deal or not, you won't really get to find out. Just a little bit more details here. Two primary benefits to Roku: include top-end premium inventory and subsequent pricing leverage on its CTV premium ad bundles, and leverage with other major media networks carriage agreements, including present discussions with AT&T and Warner Media for HBO Max premium and ad-supported subscription carriage revenue share. Rosenblatt securities analyst Mark Zugwitz said in a note Monday, the firm reiterated its buy rating on the stock. So just as something I was saying earlier, this was on the 21st. They're saying, hey, buy at 190. Now it's 180s. So you can see that, upgrades generally aren't all that bullish, maybe on the day of, and then it ends up being into a swing bearish kind of scenario. So the more upgrades you see, you generally want to avoid, being too bullish on that maybe for the day, but then in a swing, you want to be more on a bearish side, especially the more and more upgrades that it might get. Then, of course, like I said, after the negotiations, they finally settled. It's an entertainment platform, works great for the company. Ad revenue is ad revenue. Obviously, there's costs on, Comcast and, Roku's end for licensing and other costs like that. Essentially, how much Roku and NBC Universal compromised on the advertising inventory split in order to make the deal work is very unclear. They didn't really say a whole lot. Roku's website, the company says the channel controls 70% of its ad inventory, with Roku controlling the remaining 30%. And despite counter offers that both parties brought to the table, neither Roku nor Comcast and NBC Universal's team believed this to be fair, and they just kind of they went back and forth arguing about it. They came to some ultimate agreement. Ad revenue is ad revenue. Obviously, as you can see here, let me show you guys just when the upgrades came in here. So you've seen a little bit of a boost trickle and you carry it into another day, and then you have that 3-day mark where it's like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but there was generally a 3-day waiting period from big news that if it's still trickling up from then, at that 3-day period, it would be a good time to potentially short, buy puts, what have you, because obviously sell the news happens at some point, and this actually followed pretty much direct suit. That on literally the third day is when it started fading right into the morning, and since then kind of been bleeding out a little bit. Had a little bit of an upgrade today, but even that didn't last very long, and it faded pretty quickly. Uh, Kind of forming a nice bullish pattern. Personally, maybe a little bit more of a boost, but honestly, I feel that at some point between now and next year, it's going to be much lower. Wouldn't surprise me to see it in the 130 to 150 range, maybe even lower than that. Roku's kind of a tough one to play. It's all about market share, it's all about hype. It's kind of like a Tesla of entertainment. There's a lot going for it, but then at the same time, you have to think that, you know, they basically offer media players, video streaming and advertising, licensing, hardware, things like that. They get a nice recurring passive, but is that enough to innovate and keep their share price up and keep going and keep being profitable year after year? How's their guidance going to be a year from now? How's it going to be 2 years from now? It's all relative to what you feel and what you feel the direction might be for Roku. But just from this Peacock deal alone, it's a nice little market share boost. But ultimately, it really didn't affect the share price too terribly much, other than the initial reaction there. Came out, it did boost it significantly, but I feel that boost was relatively over exaggerated for what it was. Would not surprise me to see this back in the 170s by like end of next month, maybe even sooner than that. And then I'm thinking for the 130s to 150 range, probably closer to the end of the year and then early next. Then maybe a trickle bounce around. But over the past 5 years, it tends to kind of go up, sharp downs, up, 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 and it's at a very, very high point. I think we're going to see something between like around what we've seen here in March, but not as significant because that was more of a global market dip. But that's why I'm predicting like 130s to 150s, not all the way down to 80s, 90s. This is Roku after all. There's a lot of hype attached. Just continues on hype, hype, hype over and over and over again. I'm going to do more of an extensive review on Roku if you guys are interested. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to check that out here coming into the future. Make sure to like this video, comment below your own input on Roku, maybe even what you feel on upgrades and downgrades. But thank you for listening in. This is about all I was going to cover in this video, just the Roku specific Peacock deal. See you later, guys, and have a nice day.